while you have been distracted by, there's been, some really good things happening. DOGE just went over $100 billion in savings. We actually see that the IRS is one of the biggest welfare providers, and we'll go over those numbers. But while we were distracted and hoping to have people like Kash Patel actually confirmed, our leadership in the Senate, the Democrats and Republicans, have been meeting with Ukrainian leadership instead of doing the job of confirming our leaders. Also, while we've been distracted, you will never believe what just took place in Washington. D.C. is a swamp, and the reports that come out have been unbelievable. We'll talk about that as well. Our egg prices is up $10 a dozen, and they said it could go even higher. Denny's is shutting down a lot of businesses because of the egg issues, all because of the bird flu. Did you hear that 100 banks have stopped and will be closed down? 100 branches. Will your banks be affected by this? And then lastly, as we talk about DC, the waste and the policies that have been placed in, the Democrats have held up the cutting, and now you won't believe what kind of problem we're in. You hear the banks struggling. Now DC is going to make America struggle. Let's dive into these stories and a few more. This video starts right now. Hey guys, welcome to the Max. I don't know if you can tell, there's a tarp right there down. We had some damage all through the night. A lot of rains. Luckily our house is okay. We've not got power still, so it has been a crazy storm throughout the night. Crazy how it was 80 degrees yesterday, and then now it's probably 35 to 40. So it's just welcome to Mississippi. Now let's jump into the stories for today. We're thankful that we're okay though, so prayers for all the ones that have been in the midst of these crazy storms. Now let's jump into the stories of the day. First, let's talk about the food, and then we'll go to banking, and then talk about what our leaders in Washington are doing, which is unbelievable when you hear these stories. First, the eggs. Egg prices has went up to a point where they're record-breaking numbers across America. Now here they're around $6 a dozen. There's some that you can buy for a little bit more economical, but the average is around $6 here, which is kind of crazy. Again, we don't buy eggs, so we have eggs at our home, but it just blows my mind of what food is costing nowadays. It says egg prices have hit a record high due to the bird flu, with average cost of a dozen eggs reaching $4.95 nationwide. And in some cases in California, a typical traditional set of eggs, $10. Unbelievable. There's a story that says that Denny's restaurants, which is a breakfast restaurant, is having to shut some of their stores down because of the cost of goods and the food and the problems it's having with the bird flu and inflation. It says Denny's is set to shut down 30 locations amid the problems. Now, when we hear that, we know there's things trending in the right direction. We really believe that there's good things happening. However, there's still a war that we are facing. There's a new report that another farm has been shut down, another dairy farm. So now the war on eggs has now moved to dairy. And like we said, if we start taking out some of the most economical ways to get protein and health to our bodies, such as eggs and milk, and of course beef and chicken, then we have now caused a major problem here in America. And so when we see this, the question is, what are we going to do about it? What are we allowing our government to come in and just, kill all these animals instead of testing them more thoroughly? I told you about a vet that was not able to test his own animals because they said we're going to just, basically kill them all instead of allowing for some to live and test them all. They just massacred them all in the name of not spreading the disease. The problem is how do you know it was spreading if you didn't test the animals? We're just destroying and destructing, and that's causing massive problems for our farmers and massive problems for people who are shopping each and every day. Now this moves right on to the next problem with our economy. There's a new story that just came out that said 100 bank branches, and this was shared by the Calvin Coolidge Project. New major U.S. banks have closed down more than 100 branches in locations all across America just in the last 3 weeks. It says U.S. banks, Wells Fargo, and PNC were among the financial institutions notifying the Office of Comptroller of currency that their plans are to close. Now, these are big banks. Warren Buffett pulled another chunk of money out of Bank of America. So we're seeing the fall of our banking. And here's the problem. What did I say the last few days? We're seeing the movement towards crypto and digitized currencies, movement away from traditional banking. And don't get me wrong, both have a place and both have negatives too. But all in all, it's destruction for Americans. For older Americans and middle-class Americans that may not understand crypto and digitized currency, their fail-proof and fail-safe has always been the bank. And to see these banks shuttering is a major problem. So now we see a food issue where food has gone up. Food is going to go up even more and have shortages because of the bird flu and inflation. Denny's and places like that. So we're closing down restaurants. Now we're closing down banks. Now, we can't blame this on the Trump administration, but we see that the things that they're doing is going to impact us and make it better, but we're going to have to go through the lull. We've talked about this. I mean, we said back last year that 2025, and this was from several major financial regulators and institutions and power brokers, that 2025 will be a year of chaoticness when it comes to our financial house. Here's another story that should just scare the mess out of you. We see that Trump gave pink slips. We're collecting tons of money. DOGE is collecting tons of money. But again, that's just a drop in the hat for the main problems that we need Congress to face. And this is the problem with DC. 50% of Americans right now are using credit cards to live day in and day out. Now, that's not meaning paycheck to paycheck. That's not talking about the fact that there's 65 to 70% of people living paycheck to paycheck. This is saying 50% of people are using credit cards to pay for normal odd-end things, and they are not paying their balances off each and every month. That is a problem. And so we're seeing deficits. We're seeing problems with our food. We're seeing problems with our banking. Now, here's the biggest problem, because the biggest problem now will filter down to us with more inflation. The U.S. deficit hits $838 billion just in 4 months. Now here's why, and here's the important thing, and this is how the media will try to spin it and the Democrats will try to spin it. But listen to this. The Democrats are bleeding America dry. $838 billion deficit spending in just 4 months. That's up 15% just from last year. Now again, what the Democrats have already said, oh, this is Trump's economy. He's destroying it, these tariffs. None of that is actually in effect. Listen to this. The debt to GDP ratio has shattered World War II levels, and the interest payments on reckless spending has exceeded the military budget. We're spending more in interest than the government is paying for defense of our country. Trump, Elon, and DOGE are gearing up to slash bloated spending, federal waste, foreign giveaways, and disastrous policies like the Department of Education. However, Democrats are in full panic mode, screaming about corruption. They are stopping every ounce of cuts that they can through lawfare, judges, and stopping it in Congress. But here's the real question. How much can America afford before America collapse? Now think about that. We're spending more than we ever have. These were promises made by Biden's administration and the Democrats' leadership previous to Trump coming in. And guess what? Instead of your leaders, Republicans and Democrats now, instead of those leaders being here trying to get the confirmations done for the cabinet to make policy happen, instead of making sure that they're cutting their own spending problems, your Senate leaders right now are hosting Zelensky. They're all at Munich. They're all in all these places across the world spending our dollars to go and try to PR for more war. Lindsey Graham's, John Thune, John Cornyn. I mean, then the Democrats, Coons. All these leaders that are both supposed to be representing you are actually not representing you. They're over across the world trying to get more money to fight a war effort, while we're literally starving to pieces here in America. This brings up another point again, shows crazy spending. Breaking, California is spending $9.5 billion on health care for illegal immigrants while facing a $30 billion deficit. See, this is what our government does. We're in a deficit, and then they want to print more money to pay for things that we can't afford. We can't even, it's like this simple analogy, so simple. You make $1,000 in 2 weeks. You spend $2,500, so that means you're in a $1,500 deficit. And then all of a sudden you say, you know what, I just want a new car. So I'm going to go buy a new car and just get another form of debt. And that payment is now another $1,000. So now you have $1,000 you make every 2 weeks. Now you're spending $1,500, so you're in a deficit. And now you've added another $1,000. So now you're in a $2,500 deficit, all in the name of saying, I needed this vehicle, while you were not able to pay the balances you had before. So you're starving to death, and now we want to put another element of stress and anxiety on our economy, and that's exactly what these people are doing. I mean, California's in a deficit. One of the most richest states in America is now in a bigger deficit, and they're wanting to spend more money on things that they're not even allocated for Americans. It's for illegal immigrants. It's unbelievable and unpalatable. This is a new report came out from DOGE. It says, did you know the IRS is one of the largest providers of welfare in the U.S.? The IRS relies on U.S. residents, not just citizens, self-certifying their qualifications for IRS welfare. Programs that are for negative income tax, meaning for people who don't even pay in, we're then giving them money. From 2011 to 2019, there was a $30 million IRS welfare recipients each and every year. And now in 2020 and the years prior, there's been over 41 million in recipients of welfare. So not only do we have welfare programs, not only do we have IRS taking our money for taxpayers that shouldn't be taken and spending our money frivolously, now we see that they have their own welfare program that is giving back to people who are considered negative income tax earners, meaning they get money from tax incentives and getting money of welfare from our government while not paying taxes. What are we doing? What are we doing? Now, Trump is doing some great things. I want to bring up a new report that actually is encouraging, is that right now, panic in D.C. is taking place. For the bureaucracy that's getting fired, there's been more Google searches for criminal defense lawyers, RICO lawyers, offshore banking, which means there is some corruption because everybody's trying to find ways to put their money up. Wiring money, statute of limitations, that means they're trying to get out of the laws that may have broken. Also, there's record numbers of offshore bank accounts, BleachBit, and wiping drives in Google searches. Also, Zillow reports that there has been an astronomical amount of houses being put on the market in D.C. So we're actually seeing the fact that the swamp may be starting to get drained. But Trump cannot do this alone. He needs Congress. And Congress, while they should be in Washington, building a new bill that helps us understand how to cut our budget, I got to give it to Republicans in the United States House of Representatives, which, again, I don't believe they'll actually probably do it. But there's a new report that says that they're trying to cut $1 trillion in spending. Now, it won't pass because the Senate has already said it won't pass. But the thing is this. If we do not get a handle on our money, no matter how good Trump and Elon may do and DOGE may do, we will falter. Because we have Congress and we have federal judges holding up this kind of policy to where they're allowing this spending to keep happening. Federal judges and Congress are holding up some of the cuts that Trump is making. For instance, there's a new report. Again, a good move. I do not think that Johnson's just on our side all the time, but another good move. The House of Representatives and the House Republicans are preparing articles of impeachment for these federal judges. What did I say? I actually brought this up with the Andrew Jackson thing just a few days ago about how this has to take place, because if we really want to see change, we've got to get these little minuscule judges that were appointed by either Biden or Obama to stop the President of the United States from getting things done. What you're seeing, let's use reverse psychology just for a second. Help me understand why you have Democrats and judges who are not wanting to stop the corrupted spending and who are not wanting to release the corruption files that they're finding. Now listen to that. Trump and Elon and DOGE have literally cut spending and have started doing things to help mitigate the crisis of our financial problems. And these federal judges and the Democrats have held them up. Do they hate him so much that they would rather see America falter and our financial house fall to pieces in the name of just to say, I told you so, Trump's bad, Orange Man bad? That is exactly where we're at. And I think people don't grasp this. And even our news media is trying to turn against us. I mean, again, Rachel Maddow shared about the Cybertruck armored trucks again, that Trump wanted to do armored Cybertrucks. He's all lying to us, which is a complete fabricated fake story. Biden administration and his leadership were trying to build this electric body armored cars instead of Trump. And guess what? Elon Musk stopped it, which was literally his own company. He would have made probably billions on. And he stopped it. So true leadership is actually wanting to change, but Trump and DOGE cannot do it on their own. Now, does that mean they are perfect? No. The tariff situation, there's going to be negotiations going to take place. We see that now Russia and Trump has already decided to meet in Saudi Arabia. So there's good things happening. But is it too little too late? Especially when we do not have the other side wanting to stop corruption and stop spending. They're literally wanting to spend your money when we don't have it. Remember the analogy I just shared? You make $1,000. You're needing to spend $1,500, so you're already in the hole. And instead of just saying, well, we need to cut some things, we decide to go out and buy a brand new truck for another $1,000 worth of deficit spending. Is that smart? No. Now let's do it with a bunch of zeros behind it, and that's exactly what Washington is doing. Encouraging to see the fact that there's a lot of people selling their homes and a lot of people getting fired in the bureaucracy. I agree. I think that's a great thing. However, we have to have better leadership in Washington. It's great to see what House Republicans are doing, but they cannot do it without the passing of votes. They cannot do it without the Senate. Trump cannot do it without Congress. And we cannot allow these little measly federal judges that is appointed by one man to stop the movement of 77 million people who voted for Trump. It's unbelievable. Guys, let me know your thoughts on these stories. I think we're in for a rude awakening. I want to be positive, but at the same time, I have to be a realistic person thinking through. We cannot keep doing what we're doing. $100 billion in spending cut, that's great. We're in a $2 trillion deficit. So that $100 billion needs a lot more zeros on it if we're going to make an impact. Remember the video I shared about Ray Dalio a few months back? He said if we don't get deficit spending under control, we will see a chaotic crisis in the financial institution. And now you're starting to see banks falter. 100 banks shut down in 3 weeks. Now we're seeing the fact that everybody's moving towards this new crypto, which is now going to hurt the dollar. Now we're seeing the fact that our Congress, instead of doing the job that they're supposed to do, is over trying to build up the war efforts. I mean, Lindsey Graham came out yesterday. While Trump is negotiating peace, he's saying that we cannot allow for peace. We have got to go in there and show Russia who's boss. So your own Republicans are working against their own president. That shows the deep state is deeper than we thought. Guys, let me know your thoughts on today's video. Again, thank you for all the prayers, for all the people that asked about the weather. We still have no power, and we're hoping to get it back today. But again, we have been blessed to be safe, and a few trees down, a few tarps down, that's okay. As long as we have our family and our home, we're doing okay. So thank you for your prayers, and most of all, pray for our nation. Our nation needs it. Our leadership needs it. We need wisdom, and we need to get back to a groundedness and really a revival and an awakening period in America. Guys, thank you for watching. God bless.